Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope that whenever and wherever you are on this planet, that you are able to let all of your stuff just go. That you're able to forgive yourself and love yourself and accept yourself for who you are. That you accept your body the way it is. You accept your soul's mission, even if you haven't figured it out yet. You still have time. That's okay. You're never going to get off the planet without figuring it out. So don't worry. But I want you to appreciate yourself. And when you think about the word appreciate, my brother and I started saying this to each other. You know, like I could say, I love you, and he says, I love you. And we do say that to each other. But when you say, I appreciate you, the word appreciate means to increase in value. So you can love yourself, but that seems, even though it is a dynamic emotion, sometimes it can feel static. Like it's just kind of staying there. And it's sometimes the energy of passiveness. And you want the energy of activeness. And so with appreciation of oneself, you are actively increasing your own personal value to yourself, and you're increasing your worth to yourself. And when you appreciate others, you're encouraging them to do better, go faster, stronger, and basically just fulfilling their life mission. You know, you're pushing them into believing in themselves, which will eventually lead them to what it is they're supposed to be doing on the planet in the first place. Why are you here for? If you don't know, you'll eventually know. But the more you appreciate yourself and value yourself, the more you begin to believe in yourself. The more you realize that you are important. You are an important cog in the wheel of life. Without you, we would get nowhere. We need you. A lot of you guys have been writing me saying that I've saved your life, that I have helped you see your own value and your worth, or that I've given you that purpose. But the thing is, you already had it. You just forgot. I'm here to wake you up, so you can remember how great you are. How great you always were before you even knew anything about me or my show. Because you are important and you're loved by God, and we're all equal, you know? I was thinking to myself today, like, about how some people that are still sleeping will say things like, oh, I hate people that vote that way. Whatever way it is, you know, or, oh, I can't stand that group of people and their beliefs, as if that's real. Or, ooh, I would never deal with, it's so negative and evil and bleh, you know. And I started to think about how could I respond in a way that would make the person think to arrive to their own conclusion that God loves us all equally and that we all are one? Because you could say that and it just sounds like a bunch of hippy-dippy diatribe, a bunch of fluffy bunny rainbow bullshit that they're not going to believe. Because you said it, it's just going to make them hate you and resent you, and they're going to shut their mind down to you. So I was thinking the next time someone says something, and hopefully this won't happen, hopefully my radiant vibration somehow will repel these people. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, if I say it, maybe I'm going to draw it to myself. But if I do, this is what I'm thinking about saying. Oh, right. That group of people, they don't believe the same as you. But it's a good thing that they have the clue, because God doesn't allow the sun to shine on them. Isn't it weird that group of people just cannot get sunburned? Isn't that weird that the sun doesn't shine on them and that they have to spend extra money taking vitamin D? That's weird, right? And they're going to go, of course, like, that's illogical. That's so dumb. That's not true at all. And I'm like, yeah, but God's, light shines down on the righteous people and the good ones. So isn't it funny that they don't get enough vitamin D from the sun, even if they lay it out all day? It's like a shadow's cast over them. Isn't that weird? Because obviously it's not true. It doesn't happen. So what would that person's reaction be? Like, what are you talking about? The sun shines on everyone the same. What are you talking about? Oh, it does. So in order to understand this correctly, what you're telling me is God loves everybody equally? Even that group of people with all of their beliefs? Isn't that a curious thing? That's what I've been working on today. Not all day, but I mean for like a few minutes today. So I was thinking, because I mean in the Quran it says only Allah can judge me. It says don't judge other people. In the Bible, Jesus said, judge not lest ye be judged. I'm sure in the Torah it says similar things. And I'm sure that this is a lesson as well in Buddhism and Hinduism and pretty much all philosophies. So it's hard. I mean, like when you're asleep still, you tend to judge things you don't like. I mean, I don't like mushrooms and I judge them as vile, horrible, disgusting things. Oh, but give me a red one. I'll prepare it correctly and get high. Sure. I'll join with the forces that are behind the matrix in this universe and learn more. I'll take blue mushrooms and talk with the fairy folk and, enjoy what they have to offer and learn from them because they have so much to teach. I mean, if you do the medicinal plants in a way that is for your own sacred knowledge and learning, it's incredible what you discover. I mean, I told you guys when I first did blue mushrooms the very first time, the person I bought it from said, oh, you're going to love it. What we do is we turn on SpongeBob SquarePants and we laugh our asses off all night. It's wonderful. It relieves a lot of stress. I'm like, oh, okay. And she says, do you guys get cable? Can you watch that? Or do you want a video? And we're like, no, we're actually going to meditate and do like a ceremony. And then we're going to take the mushrooms and see what personal and spiritual insights come up. And we're going to write them in a notebook. And we're going to write a paper on it for our degrees. And she was like, oh, well, that's a totally different kind of experience. And we're like, yeah, I mean, that's just who we are, though. I mean, we do that when we smoke weed. I mean, not to that extent, but I mean, that was my husband and I. It's what we did. Not every day, obviously, but every now and again, And it opened up our mind. And it was only when our higher guidance would bring us the information that it's time to do it. You know, we didn't seek it out or go out of our way to go look for drugs in a dark alley or something. It was just this lady that was in our, she was a mother, and, you know, and we were parents, and our children were in ballet class together. And that's how we had the connection. It was weird, but that's how you get a lot of drug connections, ironically enough. If you ever watch Weeds, you know, there's some truth to parts of that story. You know, parents need to relax a lot more than non-parents sometimes. So, all right. I'm going to tell you guys something that just happened to me tonight. Blew my frickin' mind. So, while I was sick for about 5 days or so, I've been getting messages in the clouds every time I open my window. My curtain, not my window. So I open the curtain. Sometimes when I was too weak, my son would come in and ask me how I am. I'm all like, hey, can you open the curtain for me? I want to look at the clouds, see if God has any messages for me while I lay here. Because I didn't have enough energy to even get up for several days. So I'm sitting here watching out the window, and, well, there's a star and there's a moon, crescent moon, and it's the symbol of Islam, which is my religion. And I'm not much of a religious person. I'm more metaphysical and spiritual, as you all know, and I love and honor all the world's religions, because I feel that however you decide to meet divine in your everyday life is beautiful. You know, that's your path, and everyone has a different path, and none of them are wrong. You know, so hey, you know, I've told you several times that it makes me laugh when Christians say, well, unless you go through the church and become a Christian, you're not going to get to heaven. And it's like, well, I'll rot in hell with Jesus, I suppose, for all of eternity, since he was a Jew. And you made up your religion 200 years after he died, supposedly died. We have no proof he died, but I mean, it's just one of my favorite things to say, because it's just, think about what you say before you say it. Only God can judge. You don't tell me, you don't condemn me to hell because I don't go to your stupid church. It's just a building. Have you ever gone outside in nature? That's God's church. That's like the real church. You know, if you pay attention and you keep your mind still enough, you're gonna hear the choirs of angels singing in God's church outside in nature. You pay attention enough, you're going to hear Native American shamans that have been dead for 200 years, and their songs still remain in the pattern of the universe. You tune into the right frequency, baby. You dial your radio to the right frequency, and you're going to hear shows that you had no idea were going on right now. That's just the way it is. God said in the Quran and in the Bible, Jesus said, for those with ears to hear and those with eyes to see. Blessings will be upon us when we open our ears and our eyes, when we wake up to see and hear all the signs and messages of the universe. So, for 4 or 5 days, I'm laying here, and for about a week or two, maybe even before this, I would see the crescent moon and the star, only one. And in the past 5 days, there have been 2 in the sky. And sometimes one of them would be like dark gray, and the other one would be kind of white. Sometimes it'd be both blue, or the clouds would be blue background, and then that symbol would be white. But there's always been 2 in the sky, at least 2 or 3 times a day, every time I look. And if one dissipates, a brand new one forms, like almost right away. And I knew God was trying to tell me something, and I don't think it's go back to being extremely religious. I don't think that's the message. So I was just not really totally getting the message. I was thinking, well, he's just saying hi. He's being clever. I mean, it's more impressive to show me a crescent moon and a star shape in a cloud than even the word hi. But even that's impressive. And I'm always getting messages of, with numbers and letters. And I think one day recently I saw my last name Fox, F-O-X, in the cloud. I'm like, that was cool. And then it looked like it said fix, and then it just like kind of collapsed in on itself. And I'm like, well, maybe I made that one up, right? And usually by the time you get your phone and get everything adjusted, you hold it up and it's gone now. It's just like trying to take a picture of a butterfly. Have you ever tried taking a picture of a butterfly with an inferior camera? It's freaking ridiculous. There's no way. You show your friends, oh, look at this butterfly. Nice gray and white streak. Crusher. It just doesn't work out. I had a friend who was super impressed one day when she saw 2 eagles carrying a snake. And she was like, oh my God. She got her camera out, took a whole bunch of pictures, almost a whole roll of film back when it wasn't digital. And she takes it to the store and gets it developed. And there's all these pictures of a blank sky with 2 dots and a line. She had one framed anyway. She said, I know what that is. And that was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life. Everyone's like, you took a picture of 2 dots and a line, so that's weird. But she's like, I knew what it was. I'm like, that's like one of the coolest stories ever. I love that. Wherever she is, I have a feeling that she died. My friend Patricia, she and I would do things together. We decided to become activity partners and friends, and we met at the writers' conference, and we took hot tubs in Banos with volcanic waters, and we went swimming in the pool there, and we went to Ingapurka, which is the only temple built to a goddess instead of a god from the Incas. I didn't know that when I went, but my purpose to go when she asked me was, there's probably spirits there. I've got to release them from the earth, so I'm going to do that. We needed to release the burden of the planet's spirit. There's so many souls hanging on. Dingleberries of the spirit world. I'm just kidding. Anyway, they didn't go to heaven. They didn't go to the light, and they were just kicking it here. Some of them haunting people, and some of them just living their sorrows and woes over and over again. And they created their own hell on earth, literally. So I figured, well, I got to go release spirits. We have to release so many spirits so that Gaia herself can be unburdened, so she can lift to the 5th dimension. And that was like a year or 2 years ago. So I did all this stuff with her, and we had plans to meet up at this dance recital. And I did not see her there. And I looked, and I thought, well, maybe she didn't go, or maybe she, I don't know, maybe she went out a different door. I mean, there was a lot of people there. And I never heard from her again. And I wrote her several times, and I just never heard from her again. And I think we were kind of not seeing eye to eye on something and bickering on something, but I don't think it was enough for her to just never write me again. So I think something actually happened to her. So wherever she is, God bless her. I hope she's okay. Maybe I'll run into her and be like, dude, I thought you were dead. Or maybe she actually is dead and she hasn't come to say, hey, by the way, I kicked the bucket. So it happens to me a lot, though, where I think people just don't like me anymore. I must have said or did something, and I feel like crap about myself. And then I find out, well, they've been dead for like a year. Oh, I just thought they were holding a really strong grudge against me for some reason. I mean, being a Heyoka shaman, you say things and you're like, oh, God, here I go again, you know. I just said something, put my foot in my mouth. Oh, my God, I just said the wrong thing at the wrong time. And as I was telling a person who wrote me today, and her name is Emerald. How cool is that? One of the best names in the whole wide world, Emerald. I've only met people with Spanish is a first language. Their name is Esmeralda, which means emerald in Spanish. But emerald, what a cool name. It's like, it's an energy that I've always related to. That kind of green is just like, it's just so comforting to look at emeralds. In fact, my sweet friend Jordan gave me an emerald for my birthday. I think it was an emerald. It was a very little teeny tiny. And anyway, he gave me a couple gemstones. He buys and sells gemstones, and it's kind of a cool way to make a living. Anyway, so yeah, emerald. And I was telling her, I said, when you're at Heyoka, you're always worried about saying the wrong thing at the wrong time and making people angry, just hawking them off. But the thing is, when you're a Heyoka, things that you blurt out of your mouth randomly, like ADHD on steroids sometimes, at least that's how I do it, like blurt out crap, and then I ha 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 point to people and laugh, and then like, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm just there's something wrong with me. But then when I realize, even if I make someone angry and they stop talking to me, they'll come back and go, you were right, and because of you I changed, and thank you. It's like, all right. And it took me a long time to realize, it's because it's my Heyoka ways. It's just Heyoka crazy wisdom. It's not polite to look at people and point at them and laugh, but I've been doing it since I was a kid. My parents had to repeatedly tell me, it's not nice, don't point, don't laugh. Stop talking about that person. But I don't know, it's just that crazy Heyoka wisdom. It's like it comes along with your soul genetics. Is that a thing? It's in your soul. So anyway, so every day for like a week, I was getting this Islamic symbol, and maybe even longer, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And I didn't think anything of it. And it's so, normally I pay attention, but we just came out of the riots, and then I got sick. So I've just like been preoccupied with other stuff. So I'm looking every day, and thanks God, I love you too. Thanks God, that's cool. Why are there two? That's weird. Why are there two in the sky? For like 4 or 5 days now, why are there two in the sky? I see the one, but maybe you want to repeat it a second time, so I'm getting that that's really what I'm looking at. That's weird. I think one time I think my son might have seen it once, and it was weird. And tonight, I was having a conversation with my new friend who we've been talking for almost 3 weeks, and we haven't actually met in person yet because we're going to, and then the riots, and he was stuck in Machala, and then he finally came home. And then I just got sick, and I'm like, oh my God, the day we're supposed to meet finally. And well, everything is done in accordance with divine timing. We make plans and God laughs, as the saying goes. I think Albert Einstein said that, but I'm not sure. Might have been Mark Twain. Two people, both of them I love. They're both pretty hilarious people. But we were talking tonight, and he is spiritual like I'm spiritual. He gets it. He wants to meet the Pleiadians like I do. All the same things that we've had a lot of stuff similar. He's like Soul Tribe, right? And I never thought I'd meet an Ecuadorian man that is spiritual like me, that speaks English, that knows how to help me with all my visa crap that I've been dealing with for 2 years. I did it on my own. I'm like shocked. God helped me. God put the right people at the right time in my path that would help me. So I could not have done it on my own. But I found a translator that would translate my stuff for $4 a page. And the translator that told me he'd do it for $5 a page, as soon as he realized it was for a visa, he said, $30 a page. He lied to me, said he lived in Venezuela, and then he turned around and said, no, I live in Washington, D.C. It's expensive here. I'm like, dude, you told me $5. Now you're going back on your word. I can't go through you. And it's like the last minute, I'm like, oh, we're going to be deported for sure. And sure enough, my son's girlfriend's friend offered it to us for $4 a page. I'm like, oh my God, that is a miracle. That is a miracle. And I still had to pay him like, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks or something. He had to translate everything. I mean, the whole process cost me like 2 years and $2,000 to do the visas. It doesn't include the travel and the hostels, the multiple trips. Oh my God. It was ridiculous, but God put everyone in the right path, right? But during this whole 2 years, I've been trying to meet someone. I wanted to at least go on dates, become friends with people, try to be a little social, a lot less weird than I am, but I couldn't find anybody. Like, all the men just, their souls are attached to their pubics. Their souls are attached to their pubic hairs. That's where they got stuck. I don't know. Nothing else is on their mind. They have 2 brains down below, and that's it. They don't have one in their head. not in the. Well, never mind. Okay, we could keep going on, but no. Hey, Yoka. But I couldn't find anybody, that just to have a normal conversation. And you know how hard it is in general for a woman to find a man that is willing to have a conversation and be respectful and mature and not ask, what position do you like, baby? Or, hey, how about sending me a photo of you to keep me interested? Or, do you like it this way or that way? Blah, blah, blah. It's so rude and it just smacks of misogyny to me in some ways. It's just so depressing, to come across people that's all that's on their mind. They don't have a mind. It's just their mind is in their junk, and, that's it. And I mean, and then the 4 people I talked to that weren't like that, they were crazy. I literally met like 3 absolutely batshit crazy people. The 4th one wasn't crazy, but he only got together with me to try to get me to work his land, Why don't you come out and live there for free? All you have to do is work 4 hours a day and make a garden. It's like, do I look like La Esclava Blanca? Sorry. I'm not going to be your slave, dude. Like, what the hell? Do I look like I'm 20? I mean, thank you, but I mean, I'm 51 years old. I could barely bend down far enough to pick up my shoes since I broke my leg. I'm not going to till your damn soil. And the whole date that I thought was a date, he said it was a date. He put his arm in my arm, made me assume it was a date. I think he even held my hand for a few minutes, but then he started talking about how Salma Hayek is his type and that's all he wants. It's like, well, then why the hell are you with me? Yeah, I'm a redhead, dude. I look nothing like her. She's gorgeous. I agree. I would date her. In fact, after the date with him, I would rather date Salma Hayek than him. But anyway, so it was just random that I met this guy 3 weeks ago. He contacted me. And he asked me if I was in Cuenca, if my profile was correct. I'm like, I don't lie on my profile, of course. I have like over 1,000 travel pictures, and here's my, here's my whatever. And we started talking, and I had this really amazing rush of overwhelming great energy about him. And so we started talking 3 weeks ago. And I asked God, look, can I give this guy my number? And God said yes. And I said, okay, great. But all is in time, good. It's always in God's timing, right? So anyway, the whole Islamic symbol in the sky thing, back to that long ass way around the story. But anyway, we're talking, and it came out tonight that he converted to Islam 8 years ago. I converted 7 years ago. And he asked me a question about something. And he's always talking lately about his Arab friends. He's smoking hookah, or they're going to meet up and have a coffee. And he has a lot of friends from Yemen. And I've met some Arabs here, not many. I met a man from Iraq. And it was really great to meet him. But then he hopped in a cab and I never saw him again. I'm like, whoa, wait, we could have been friends. You're the only Muslim in all of Ecuador. That's not true. There's a huge population of Ecuadorians that are descended from the Turkish slaves that the Spaniards just decided, we don't have room on our ships for you now, so hey, you're free, woohoo, did that kind of finger gun thing. All right, oi, parce, see you later. I'm sure that's exactly how the Spaniards did it. Took off on their ships with all their extra food and supplies, because it's like, what, did your ships shrink? Freaking liars. Anyway, but the Turks said, well, there was a war going on in their country, might as well settle in Quito. So there's this massive group of Turkish Muslims, and so they've created their own kind of niche culture here. And so there's a couple mosques in Quito. I haven't gone to them yet, but there's soap operas surrounding the Islamic faith, and the soap operas are in Spanish and Turkish language. It is one of the freakiest, most surreal things I've ever seen in my life. And it's set here, like in Quito. It's weird. But here in Cuenca, I've now met I met like 5 or 6 guys that I think they claimed to be Muslim and then offered me a beer in their restaurant. I'm like, you guys aren't Muslim. Come on. They're like, everyone drinks. I'm like, but I'm not going to argue. It's like I can't argue. I mean, I drink, but see, that's between me and Allah. This is between me and my God. But when you have a restaurant and you're Muslim, should you really be promoting, So that's always been a question to me, that puritanical streak sometimes that I get. But so I met a few people here and there, but nothing stuck, and then they still aren't spiritual like me. They're not metaphysical, but this guy is, and he's Muslim. And I'm like, oh, that reminds me, I've been seeing 2 Islamic symbols in the sky. They're always the same size, and they're always not really side by side. They're a little bit apart. Like he and I have been a little bit apart because I haven't met him in person yet. And I'm like, that is just absolutely freaky. And he said he started crying when I told him that. He's like, oh my God. I said, look what the Quran says, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. And he was, oh my God. And that is not just in Islam, it's in all religions. Pretty much say, they try to get you to wake up. Ascend, baby. That's what it's all about. That's what we've all been here for this whole freaking time. Even if you're an atheist, there are things that will wake you up. I've met a lot of atheists that weren't spiritual, but they were really spiritual. They just didn't know they were. Donating to charity, they're helping others, they're going out of their way all the time to help people. I've met some really good people that had no religion at all. And had no beliefs in that way at all. I've even met Satanists that were really cool, really sweet people. I think a Satanist bought me coffee once, it's like, it's just weird. But anyway, we were talking, and it was like, it just deepened, like it was like another layer of like, wow, now I understand you on a whole nother level. And we were already going to have some deep talks. We've already been having deep talks every day. We write each other in the morning, write each other at night. We're becoming very good friends. So he was just like, I can't believe it. Like, you just changed so much in my world in just a heartbeat like that. Like how is it possible, that an American woman moves here and speaks Spanish and, obviously English, but speaks Spanish and converted and has all the same Pleiadian things and ET things and this metaphysical show and all these things that we have in common. And also that, like, it was just like one more mind blown. But God's going to bring you your one. God's going to bring you your soul tribe. God's going to bring you your friends. God's going to put the people in your path that are going to be there to help you. And if you're not getting it, God will put signs in the damn clouds for you. I mean, you might see an arrow over someone's head, pointing down to them. This is the one, this is the one, this is the one. And I'm not saying that he's my one, but I do know that he is going to be a very good friend, probably for a very long time, if not forever. And it's possible we've already been friends forever and planned this whole crazy thing just to wake us up even further. God did tell me he is an ascension partner. I know he's not my twin flame, but I know he's my ascension partner. So as we were anchoring into the fifth, which we're now 100% anchored into the fifth dimension now, we are 100% on the Ascension symptom scale, meaning, well, any symptoms we're having is just adjustment at this phase. We're not ever going to go back down. You know, once we've approached 100, that means we're anchored in. That's what the divine told me. And that's where we're at, which is so cool. Anyway, let's get into the evening. Disclosurenews.it says Power 11 again today with the 33s, the 44s, the 55s, the 222s, and 11, and including 1111 and 1122 and 1133 and 1144. I mean, literally every time I looked at my anything, those are the numbers kept coming up. 33, a lot for sure. So Power 11, and I just think that means that everything is starting to line up. Maybe I'm being a little bit more positive these days, so I'm lining up more positive things. I hope that's happening for you too. If not, well, you know what you need to do. You need to take a broom and sweep your mind out. Spiritual broom, not an actual. Don't touch a broom to your head. I'm too Virgo for that image. Oh my God, this is like freaking me out. Germs, don't touch your head to a real broom. That's not how you sweep the room. All right. I'm doing this like so late because it took like 4 hours for my phone to charge like 20 extra %. It's like weird because the other day it took 1 hour to charge from 0 to 100. It's just, I don't know. I think my phone is on a different timeline than I am. It's in a different dimension or something than I am. I don't know why this is happening. But again, everything in divine timing. So there you go. Now that I'm punch drunk, you guys are going to have more fun listening to me. Anyway, 1700 report today for Disclosure News IT. Another day of light activity. The only significant movement reached 11 at 11. Here we go again, 11:11. 11 at 11 chart local time corresponding to 4 UTC. All right, so basically 11 was the only 11 at 11. That was it. And they're still calling it Power 11. It's just so strange. I like it though. I like the strangeness. All right. Okay, clearly. If I didn't like strangeness, I wouldn't be doing this strange ass show. Okay. All right, heartmath.org. Today, California started off at 66. There's another master number. Unbelievably cool. All right, so 66, California, and 4 a.m. they were at 61. By the way, in California, hundreds of thousands of residents will be without power soon because of the winds kicking in and PG&E having to turn off their power. So, again, pray for California. There are fires in Pacific Palisades. There are fires in Los Angeles. There's fires throughout California again. So, I don't know, guys. Just please pray for my home state. It hurts me. I mean, I don't think that the people of that area deserve what's happening, but I feel like maybe it's just cleansing the land in a way, but it might also be waking people up. You know, I don't think people deserve this kind of terror, you know, that's caused by this, but I do think it is the absolute truth that it wakes people up. So I believe Michael Sherahan. If you guys didn't hear that last night, that was incredible. That channeling was really good. I mean, when I publish a show, I started doing the Pluara Sa channeling or chanting that he said to do, and I did it for a long time. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell you a healing technique he gave me. but I don't have time because it's going to take an hour to read the 2 chapters. So, all right, let's get to this. So California. After California, we have on the list Saudi Arabia in Hafuf. They start off at 70 and just stayed straight across, exactly a straight line from 70 to 70. In fact, they started off like they were 71 like a few hours before that, and that was it. It's 70 at 11 o'clock yesterday. They started and stayed exactly the same all the way across. All right. Lithuania started off at 90 hertz frequency and ended at 88, another master number. You see what's going on. It's like, we're aligning like more and more with who we are. So we're going to see more and more of these crazy synchronicities and coincidences. Alberta, Canada started off at 94 hertz frequency and they ended up at 101 by 4 a.m. And again at midnight, they were in 1 o'clock in the morning, they were at 99, which is another master number. Northland, New Zealand started off at 63 and they ended up at 62 by 4 a.m. And at midnight, Hulului, South Africa started off at 132 and ended up at 133. 33 being another master number, and 133 being the lesson in A Course in Miracles today. Pretty trippy. You just can't make up this kind of segue. All right? Crazy. Lesson 133 at acim.org, which is the foundation for inner peace. This is the main thought for the day. I will not value what is valueless. I will not value what is valueless. I'm going to see what the practice periods are today. This is really incredible. Very long lesson today. What it says is, I will not value what is valueless, and only what has value do I seek. For only that do I desire to find. I will not value what is valueless, for what is valuable belongs to me. And that's right. And what was I just saying? Oh my God, it always connects in, doesn't it? I didn't know what the lesson was today. I queued it up and didn't even read it hours ago. And I was just saying, appreciate yourself. Raise your own personal value. And there you go. You can't value what's valueless. So you have to value yourself because you are valuable. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, we are going to read Allan Kardec's book called The Spirits Book that he co-authored with a bunch of disembodied spirits through 4 different mediums. Well, actually, it's more, I think it was like 5 mediums at 4 different houses in different parts of Paris, and they did not know each other. And this was published in 1857. It's a long frickin' time ago. This book was so important that it went all over the world. It was translated into multiple languages. A big shipment moved over to Brazil, where they speak Portuguese. Sorry, not Portugal. Actually, some were in Portugal, but go watch the movie Kardec, Kardec. It is an incredible story. And my reading the book to you will not give the plot of the story away. But I will tell you, there were some book burn-ins. They burned this book because they were scared. Because this book is real and told the truth. Had the Catholic Church running scared, and they sponsored the burning of this book, but not before a mass shipment went out to Brazil. And what I'm reading you today was translated from French to Portuguese to English. So keep that in mind as I read through some of these really crazy typos. All right, I'll be right back after this. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you. Chapter 5, Plurality of Existences. Question 223. And by the way, before I get into this, he asked questions that he wrote previously, or sometimes right after, they answered something and it sparked another question. And he asked the same exact question scientifically to all the different mediums. And the spirits answered through all the different mediums in exactly precisely the same way. And that's how he knew that the mediums were real. They were actually talking to spirits because they didn't know each other. This is before internet, TV, or telephones. Maybe there was telephone. In 1857? I don't know. Anyway, they didn't know each other. It's not like they had a phone book. They couldn't look each other up and figure it out. No yellow pages back then. So it's pretty freaky, right? If you don't believe it, but then you see his scientific methods, and he was a part of the Psychic Research Society. So, you have to see his movie, and I can tell you what happened there. But so he did everything with the scientific method. And so that's what makes this so compelling. Anyway, enough of my diatribe. Here we get into it. Question 223. The dogma of reincarnation, it is sometimes objected, is not new. It is a resuscitation of the doctrine of Pythagoras. We have never said that the Spiritist doctrine was of modern invention. On the contrary, as the intercommunication of spirits with men occurs in virtue of natural law, it must have existed from the beginning of time, and we have always endeavored to prove that traces of this intercommunication are to be found in the earliest annals of antiquity. Pythagoras, as is well known, was not the author of the system of metempsychosis. He borrowed it from the philosophers of Hindustan and of Egypt, by whom it had been held from time immemorial. The idea of the transmigration of soul was therefore in the earliest ages of the world a general belief, equally admitted by the common people and by the most eminent thinkers of that period. By what road did this idea come to them? Did it reach them through revelation or through intuition? In regard to this point, we know nothing, but it may be safely assumed that no idea could thus have traversed the successive ages of the worlds and have commanded the ascent of the highest intellects of the human race if it had not been based on some solid ground of truth and reason. The antiquity of this doctrine should therefore be considered as an argument in its favor rather than as an objection. But at the same time, it must not be forgotten that there is, between antique doctrine of metempsychosis and the modern doctrine of reincarnation, this capital difference, viz., that the spirits who inculcate the latter reject absolutely the idea that the human soul can pass into an animal and vice versa. The spirits, therefore, who now proclaim the dogma of the plurality of our corporeal existences reassert a doctrine which had its birth in the earliest ages of the world and which has maintained its footing to the present day in the convictions of many minds, but they present this dogma under an aspect which is more rational, more comfortable with the natural law of progress, and more in harmony with the wisdom of the Creator through the stripping away of accessories added to it by superstition. A circumstance worthy of notice is the fact that it is not in this book alone that this doctrine in question has been inculcated by them of late years. For even before its publication, numerous communications of a similar nature had already been obtained in various countries, and their number has since been greatly increased. It may be here asked, why is it that the statements of all spirits are not in unison in regards to the subject? To this question we shall recur elsewhere. Let us for the present examine the matter from another point of view, entirely irrespective of any assumed declarations of spirits in regard to it. Let us put the latter entirely aside for the moment. Let us suppose them to have made no statement whatever in regard to it. Let us even suppose the very existence of spirits not to have been surmised. Placing ourselves a moment on neutral ground, and admitting, as equally possible, the hypothesis of the plurality and of the unity of corporeal existences, let us see which of these hypotheses is most in harmony with the dictates of reason and with the requirements of our own interest. There are persons who reject the idea of reincarnation simply because they do not like it, declaring that their present existence has been quite enough for them, and that they have no wish to recommence a similar one. Of such persons we would merely inquire whether they suppose that God has consulted their wishes and opinions in regulating the universe. Either the law of reincarnation exists, or it does not exist. If it exists, no matter how displeasing it may be to them, they will be compelled to submit to it. For God will not ask their permission to enforce it. It is as though a sick man should say, "I've suffered enough today, I do not choose to suffer tomorrow." No matter what may be his unwillingness to suffer, he will nevertheless be obliged to go on suffering not only on the morrow, but day after day until he is cured. In like manner, if it be their destiny to live again corporeally, they will thus live again. They will be reincarnated. In vain will they rebel against necessity, like a child refusing to go to school or a condemned criminal refusing to go to prison. They will be compelled to submit to their fate, no matter how unwilling they may be to do so. Such objections are too puerile to deserve a more serious examination. Let us say, however, for the consolation of those who urge them, that the Spiritist doctrine of reincarnation is by no means so terrible as they imagine it to be. that the conditions of their next existence depend on themselves and will be happy or unhappy according to the deeds done by them in this present life, and that they may even by their action in this life raise themselves above the danger of falling again into the mire of expiation. Whatever the hell that means. We take it for granted that those whom we are addressing believe in some sort of future after death, and that they do not look forward either to annihilation or to a drowning of their soul in a universal whole without individuality, like so many drops of rain into the ocean, which comes to much the same thing. But if you believe in a future state of existence, you probably do not suppose that it will be the same for all, for in that case, where would be the utility of doing right? Why should men place any restraint upon themselves? Why should they not satisfy all their passions, all their desires, even at the expense of the rest of the world, if the result is to be the same in all cases? On the contrary, you no doubt believe that our future will be more or less happy according to what we've done in our present life, and you have doubtless the desire to be as happy as possible in the future to which you look forward, since it will be for all eternity. Do you perchance consider yourself to be one of the most excellent of those who have ever existed upon the earth, and therefore you're entitled to supreme felicity? No. You admit then that there are some who are better than you, and who have consequently a right to a higher place, although you do not deserve to be classed among the reprobate. Place yourself then in thought for a moment in the medium condition which, according to your own admission, will properly be yours. Now suppose that someone comes to you and says, "You suffer, you are not so happy as you might be, and meanwhile you see others in the enjoyment of unmixed happiness. Would you like to exchange your position for theirs?" "Undoubtedly I should," you reply. "What must I do to bring about such a result?" Something very simple. You have only to begin again what you have done badly, and try to do better. Would you hesitate to accept the offer, even at the cost of several existences of trial? Let us take another illustration, still more prosaic. Suppose that someone comes to a man who, though not in a state of absolute destitution, has to endure many privations through the smallness of his means, and says to him, "Here is an immense fortune, of which you may have the enjoyment on condition that you work hard during 1 minute. The laziest of men, in response to such an offer, would say without hesitation, "I am ready to work for 1 minute, for 2 minutes, for an hour, for a whole day if necessary. What's a day's labor in comparison with the certainty of ease and plenty for the rest of my life?" But what is the duration of a corporeal life in comparison with eternity? Less than a minute, less than a moment. We sometimes hear people bring forward the following lug argument. God, who is sovereignly good, cannot impose upon man the hard necessity of recommencing a series of sorrows and tribulations. But would there be more kindness in condemning a man to perpetual suffering for a few moments of error than in giving him the means of repairing his faults? 2 manufacturers had each a workman no might hope to become someday the partner of his employer. But it happened that both workmen made so very bad a use of their day that they merited dismissal. One of the manufacturers drove away his unfaithful workman, despite his supplications, and this workman, being unable to obtain any other employment, died of want. The other said to his workman, "You have wasted a day. You owe me compensation for the loss that you have thus caused me. You have done your work badly. You owe me reparation for it. I will give you leave to begin it over again. Try to do well, and I will keep you in my employ, and you may still aspire to the superior position which I had promised you." Need we ask of which of the manufacturers has shown himself to be the most humane? And would God, who is clemency itself, be more inexorable than a just and compassionate man? The idea that our fate is decided forever by a few years of trial, and notwithstanding the fact that it was not in our power to attain perfection while we remained upon the earth, fills the mind with anguish, while the contrary idea is eminently consoling, for it leaves us hope. Thus, without pronouncing for or against the plurality of existences, without admitting either hypothesis in preference to the other, we assert that if the matter were left to our own choice, there is no one who would prefer incurring a sentence against which there should be no appeal. A philosopher has said that if God did not exist, it would be necessary to invent him for the happiness of the human race. The same might be said in regard to the plurality of existences. But as we have already remarked, God does not ask our permission in the establishment of providential ordering. He does not consult our preferences in the matter. Either the law of reincarnation exists, or it does not exist. Let us see on which side is the balance of probabilities, considering the matter from another point of view, but still leaving out of sight all idea of any statements that have been made by spirits in regard to it, and examining the question merely as matter of philosophic inquiry. If the law of reincarnation does not exist, we can have but one corporeal existence, and if our present life be our only one, the soul of each individual must have been created at the same time as his body, unless indeed we assume the anteriority of the soul, in which case we should have to inquire what was the state of the soul before its union with the body, and whether the state did not constitute an existence of some kind or other. There is no middle ground. Either the soul existed before its union with the body, or it did not. If it existed, what was its condition? Was it possessed of self-consciousness? If not, its state must have been nearly equivalent to non-existence. If possessed of individuality, it must have been either progressive or stationary. In either case, what was its degree of advancement on uniting itself to the body? If, on the contrary, it be assumed according to the general belief that the soul is born into existence at the same time as the body, or that previous to the birth of the body, it possesses only negative faculties, we have to propose the following questions. Have you guys got that this is not actually question 223 yet? 3 pages later. Okay. So we have to propose the following questions. Number 1. Why do souls manifest so great a diversity of aptitudes independently of the ideas acquired by education? Number 2. Whence comes the extra-normal aptitude for certain arts and sciences displayed by many children while still very young, although others remain in a state of inferiority or of mediocrity all their life? Number 3. Whence do some individuals derive the innate or intuitive ideas that are lacking in others? Number 4. Whence do some children derive the precocious instincts of vice or virtue, the innate sentiments of dignity or of baseness, which often contrast so strikingly with the situation into which they were born? Number 5, why is it that some men, independently of education, are more advanced than others? Number 6, why is it that among the races which people the globe what? This is crazy. All right, I'm going to read it, but so far, even the sentence doesn't make sense. We're all in the human race, but in 1857, no one believed that yet. So number 6, why is it that among the races which people the globe, some are savage and others civilized? If you took a Hottentot baby from its mother's breast and brought it up in our most renowned schools, could you succeed in making of it a Laplace or a Newton? What the fuck is he on about? I have no idea what the hell that even means. Okay, moving right along. What is the philosophy or the theosophy that can solve these problems? Either the souls of men are equal at their birth, or they are unequal. If they are equal, why these inequalities of aptitude? Will it be said that these inequalities depend on the corporeal organization of each child? But such a doctrine would be the most monstrous and most immoral of hypotheses. For in that case, man would be a mere machine, the sport of matter. He would not be responsible for his actions, but would have the right to throw all the blame of his wrongdoing on the imperfections of his physical frame. If, on the other hand, souls are created unequal, God must have created them so. But in that case, why is this innate superiority accorded to some and denied to others? And would such partiality be consistent with the justice of God and the equal love he bears to all his creatures? Admit, on the contrary, a succession of existences, and everything is explained. Men bring with them at their birth in flesh the amount of intuition that they previously acquired. They are more or less advanced according to the number of existences they have previously accomplished, according as they are nearer to or farther from the common starting point. Exactly as in a company made up of individuals of different ages, each will possess a degree of development proportionate to the number of years he's already lived. The succession of years being to the life of the body what the succession of existences is to the life of the soul. Bring together in the same place at the same time 1,000 individuals of all ages, from the newborn babe to the patriarch of 80. Suppose that a veil is thrown over their past, and that you, in your ignorance of that past, imagine them all to have been born on the same day. You would naturally wonder, how is it that some are wrinkled and others little, that some are wrinkled and others fresh? Oh, it said winkled? Some are winkled and others little. Does that mean big? I kind of don't even want to know what that means. Anyway, some are winkled and others little. Some are wrinkled and others fresh. And that some are learned and some are ignorant. But if the cloud which hid their past were dispersed, and you discovered that some had lived longer than others, all these differences would be explained. God, in his justice, could not create souls more or less perfect, but granting the plurality of our corporeal existences, there's nothing in the differences of quality that we see around us in any way inconsistent with the most rigorous equity. For what we see around us is then perceived to have its roots not in the present, but in the past. Is this argument based on any preconceived system or gratuitous supposition? No. We start from a fact that's patent and incontestable, viz. the inequality of natural aptitudes, and of intellectual and moral development. and we find this fact to be inexplicable by any of the theories in vogue, while the explanation of this fact afforded by another theory is at once simple, natural, and rational. Is it reasonable to prefer a theory which does not explain this fact to one which does? In regard to the sixth question, it will doubtless be replied that a Hottentot, I have no idea what that is of an inferior race. See, I don't like this talk at all. I'm going to read it, but bear in mind, it has nothing to do with the beliefs of the station, which is just Anchor, and also me, because it's weird. So he's saying the Hottentot, whatever the hell that is of an inferior race, in which case we beg to inquire whether Hottentot is or is not a man. If he be not a man, why try to make him a Christian? What? Oh my God. If he be a man, why has God refused to him and to his race the privileges accorded to the Caucasian race? What the hell is he on about? Spiritist philosophies, it's like in 1857, people were just shitheads in some ways, right? Still, okay, I mean, my enlightened view is they were just merely really, really asleep. Oh my God. Spiritist philosophy is too broad to admit the existence of different species of men. It recognizes only men whose spiritual part is more or less backward, but who are capable of the same progress. Is not this view of the human race more comfortable with the justice of God? We have hopefully we're off the race issue. Human race, all right? That's it. We have considering the soul in regard to its past and its present. If we consider it in regard to the future, we are met by difficulties which the theories in vogue are equally unable to explain. Number one, if our future destiny is to be decided solely by our present existence, what will be in the future the respective positions of the savage or civilized man? Will they be on the same level, or will there be a difference in the sum of their eternal felicity? Number two, will the man who has labored diligently all his life to advance his moral and intellectual improvement be placed in the same rank with the man who, not through his own fault, but because he has neither the time nor opportunity for advancing, has remained at a lower point of moral and intellectual improvement? Number three, can the man who has done wrong because the means of enlightenment have been denied to him be justly punished for wrongdoing which has not been the result of his own choice? Number four, we endeavor to enlighten, moralize, and civilize mankind. Is that what you call it? Sorry. Hey, Yoka. But for one whom we are able to enlighten, there are millions who die every year without the light having reached them. What is to be the fate of these millions? Are they to be treated as reprobates? And if they are not to be so treated, how have they deserved to be placed in the same category with those who have become enlightened and moralized? Number five, what is to be the fate of children who die before they have been able to do good or evil? If they are to be received among the supremely happy, why should this favor be granted to them without their having done anything to deserve it? Yeah, how do they rate? I'm just kidding. He didn't say that, just me. And in virtue of what privilege are they exempted from undergoing the tribulations of the earthly life? Which of these doctrines hitherto propounded can solve these problems? But if we admit the fact of our consecutive existences, all these problems are solved in conformity with the divine justice. What we are not able to do in one existence, we do in another. None are exempted from the action of the law of progress, Everyone is rewarded progressively according to his deserts, but no one is excluded from the eventual attainment of the highest felicity, no matter what may be the obstacles he has to encounter on the road. The questions growing out of the subject we are considering might be multiplied indefinitely, for the psychological and moral problems which can only find their solution in the plurality of existences are innumerable. In the present considerations, we have restricted our inquiry to those which are most general in nature. But it may still be urged by some objectors, whatever may be the arguments in its favor, the doctrine of reincarnation is not admitted by the Church. Its acceptance would therefore be the overthrow of religion. It's not our intention to treat of the question in this place under the special aspects suggested by the foregoing objection. It is sufficient for our present purpose to have shown the eminently moral and rational character of the doctrine we are considering. But it may be confidently asserted that a doctrine which is both moral and rational cannot be antagonistic to a religion which proclaims a divine being to be the most perfect goodness and the highest reason. What, we may ask in our turn, would have become of the Church if, in opposition to the convictions of mankind and the testimony of science, it had persisted in rejecting overwhelming evidence and had cast out from its bosom all who did not believe in the movement of the sun or in the 6 days of creation? What would be the credit or authority possessed among enlightened nations by a religious system that should inculcate manifest errors as articles of belief? Whenever any matter of evidence has been established, the Church has wisely sided with the evidence. If it be proved that the facts of human life are irreconcilable, and ally other supposition with the belief in the justice of God, if various points of the Christian dogma can only be explained with the aid of this doctrine, the Church will be compelled to admit its truth and to acknowledge that the apparent antagonism between them is only apparent. We shall show elsewhere that religion has no more to fear from the acceptance of this doctrine than from the discovery of the motion of the earth and of the periods of geological formation, which at first sight appear to contradict the statements of the Bible. Moreover, the principle of reincarnation is implied in many passages of Holy Writ and is explicitly formulated in the Gospels. Quote, unquote. Quote, it says, "When they came down from the mountain after the transfiguration, Jesus gave this commandment and said to them, 'Speak to no one of what you have just seen, until the Son of Man shall have been resuscitated from among the dead.' His disciples thereupon began to question him and inquired, 'Why then do the scribes say that Elias must first come?' But Jesus replied to them, 'It is true that Elias must come, and that he will reestablish all things. But I declare to you that Elias has already come, and they did not know him, but have made him suffer as they listed. It is thus that they will put to death the Son of Man.' Then his disciples understood that he spoke to them of John the Baptist." That was from St. Matthew chapter, a bunch of Roman numerals, XVII, which is 27, chapter 27 of St. Matthew. Since John the Baptist is declared by Christ to have been Elias, it follows that the spirit or soul of Elias must have been reincarnated in the body of John the Baptist. But whatever may be our opinion in regard to reincarnation, whether we accept or whether we reject it, it is certain that we shall have to undergo it if it really exists, notwithstanding any belief of ours to the contrary. The point which we here desire to establish is this, viz., that the teaching of the spirits who proclaim it is eminently Christian, that it's founded on the doctrines of the immortality of the soul, of future rewards and punishments, of the justice of God, of human free will, and the moral code of Christ, and that therefore it cannot be anti-religious. We have argued the matter, as we've remarked above, without reference to statements made by spirits, such statements being for many minds without authority. If we and so many others have adopted the hypothesis of the plurality of existences, we have done so not merely because it has been proclaimed by spirits, but because it has appeared to us to be eminently rational, and because it solves problems that are insoluble by the opposite hypothesis. Had it been suggested to us by a mere mortal, we should therefore have adopted it with equal confidence, renouncing with equal promptitude our preconceived opinions on the subject. For when an opinion has been shown to be erroneous, even self-love has more to lose than to gain by persisting in holding it. In like manner, we should have rejected the doctrine of reincarnation, even though proclaimed by spirits, if it had appeared to us to be contrary to reason, as indeed we have rejected many other ideas which spirits have sought to inculcate. For we know by experience that we can no more give a blind acceptance to ideas put forth by spirits than we can to those put forth by men. The principal merit of the doctrine of reincarnation is then, to our minds, that it is supremely rational, but it is also in its favor the confirmation of facts positive and, so to say, material, which are apparent to all who study the question with patience and perseverance, and in presence of which all doubt as to the reality of the law in question is impossible. When the appreciation of all these facts shall have become popularized, like those which have revealed to us the formation and rotation of the earth, they who now oppose this doctrine will be compelled to renounce their opposition. So, to sum up, we assert the doctrine of the plurality of existences is the only one which explains what, without this doctrine, is inexplicable, that it is at once eminently consolatory and strictly conformable with the most rigorous justice, and that it is the anchor of safety which God in His mercy has provided for mankind. The words of Jesus Himself are explicit as to the truth of this last assertion. For we read in the 3rd chapter of the Gospel, according to St. John, that Jesus, replying to Nicodemus, thus expressed Himself, quote, "Verily, verily, I tell thee that if a man be not born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." And when Nicodemus inquires, "How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter again into his mother's womb and be born a second time?" Jesus replies, "Except a man be born of water and of spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. What is born of the flesh is flesh, what is born of the spirit is spirit. Be not amazed at what I have told thee. You must be born again." Vide Resurrection of the Body, number 1010. Oh my God, he is so long-winded. Oh my, that wasn't even a question. The spirits didn't even speak tonight. That was just his scientific rationale for why plurality of existences or reincarnation is real. based on felicity, which also means happiness, right? So I don't know. What the hell is a Hottentot? I hope it's not like a racist term and I just kept saying it all night. I literally and sincerely have no freaking clue what that means. I almost don't even want to look it up because it just maybe is something bad. But I remember hearing it when I was a kid and I thought it was a hilarious word. So I used it from time to time and I have no idea if that is now something bad or not. So apologies to anyone and everyone in all directions of space and time and all manner of dimensions and parallel universes and timelines if I offended anyone. Across all lifetimes, times, and dimensions and everything. Crazy, right? I'm not going to read another chapter, but I am later. I mean, a week from now. I mean, the next chapter has 9 sections to it, so I might just read only one chapter next week. This is already going to be a normal length show, almost. I don't have another, usually they're like 28 to 30 minutes, and that was like 36 minutes or something. And I'm exhausted, guys. That just exhausted me. It was like, did it blow your mind? He has very good reasoning ability, and I mean, I automatically believe in reincarnation because I have past life memories. That's it. And I met other people who had memories of me from the same exact lives. I'm writing a book about it called Memories of Me, and I've written probably more than half of it. Someday I'll get around to publishing it, and I'm going to give you guys the book free on Amazon if you write a review. But I'll tell you more details when I get to it. I'm going to have a pre-launch party so you can do pre-sales so that when it does get released, you will have it right away because you are listeners of my show. At least the first 5,000 people will get it for free. So if you're listening to this right now, you're definitely going to get it for free. If you keep sticking around and keep coming back, because I definitely will. I'll be back tomorrow with all unique and original programming like every day. I have no idea what the show's going to be about tomorrow because I am led by spirit and spirit alone, and I have to ask God every day, hey, what should we do? Except for Saturdays and Mondays, in which he told me weeks ago that we're going to read these 2 books until we run out of book to read. So, until we're bookless. Till we're learned and bookless. But I have no idea what the show's going to be about tomorrow, but hopefully it'll be a doozy. I have an announcement-ish to make about a prediction that Prime Creator said. And I'm going to tell you guys that tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you today. Something to look forward to. Now, if you missed anything over the weekend, go ahead and listen because the clairvoyance one is really heating up. It's really good information if you didn't catch it. And I channeled the Pleiadian leader, Michael Sherahan, yesterday. And his information was absolutely invaluable. I already did the chanting that he gave us, and it works. I felt calm, and my anxiety decreased. And I felt really, really, really good. So, pretty cool, right? So, that's all I got to say about that. I love you guys. I wanted to thank you for listening and tuning in every day. Or however you do. Some of you save up the episodes and listen all weekend while you paint or draw or create something else. I think that's cool. I have a friend who gathers all of her canvases and paints and gets all of her subject matter all ready, and she will listen to me for 3 days solid, just painting her days away. And that's pretty cool. I don't know, if you knit or crochet, hey, maybe that's what you're doing. It's hard, like if you watch TV and you're knitting or crocheting or painting, because you kind of have to keep looking at the TV and it kind of breaks your concentration. But if you listen to something like a podcast, You don't have to look up. You can just keep doing what you're doing. It doesn't break your concentration. And when you're listening without looking, it gives you a different perspective and puts your brain in a different state of mind. So I like listening to podcasts as well as movies and TV shows and radio shows. And I do a lot of educational programs where I pay for the information and I'll download the book, and sometimes I print it up and read it. Sometimes I read it online, and I listen to the videos and I go over and over and over and over the information. Because I just am a nerd. I like to learn. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's made me the person I am today, and that's why I'm having the show. So there you go. All right. Well, I'm still asking for you guys to please send in your tales of spiritual hauntings, spirits or ghosties that have come to you, whether they're meant to scare you or just say, hey, what's up, yo? I want you guys to tell me your stories. Send them to metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com. And, well, that's all I got to say about that. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for your continued support, liking, favoriting, subscribing, whatever it's called on the app or platform or website where you're listening to the show. And thank you for forwarding this to your Facebook groups that are like-minded and spiritual also. We're trying to help as many people as possible who are newly awakening, and we're wanting to help as many people as possible who are struggling through this stuff. Say they awakened? Yeah, awakened, that's the right word. Awakened last year, and you're still like, what's an aura again? You know, steer them to the show. The right people will come to listen to the show. That's just the way it is. And that's why all you are here. And so thank you. I'm glad you're here. I'm not just speaking into a big void, vacuum of space, whatever. I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm grateful to you. I appreciate you. But that's all I got to say about that for real this time. No, you hang up. You hang up. No, you hang up. It's your turn. You didn't hang up yet. I'm just kidding. Raise your hands if you've ever had that conversation with anybody. It's a typical one between lovers that are new to each other. And it's one that I had every single day that I spoke to my mother on the phone after she and my father divorced. That exact conversation. It always made me laugh. And then when I heard it on TV the first time, I was like, whoa, how did they know that that's our conversation? Blew my mind. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. God willing and the creeks don't rise. Or as they say in Spanish, ojalá, which means from the Arabic, inshallah, which means as God wills it. All right, signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension into which we are now anchored. All right, see you later, guys. Peace out. Do you ever wish you could look into the next chapter in your book of life and see what's coming next? What does the universe have in store for you? I can help you with that. I will give you a Celtic cross reading, which is 10 cards, or you can ask me 3 questions, and I use 3 cards per question. So that's 9 cards, or I can channel your higher guidance, or maybe God directly for you. Maybe you want to talk to your dear departed Aunt Edna, because maybe you have a few questions and she was the smartest person you knew. If your deceased relatives are available or your ascended masters, I can channel them for you personally. Let me have 1 hour to show you the future in your next chapter of your book of life. Readings are $75, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to complete. And for this price, you will also be hooked up to the healing grid around the planet for free, which means yours truly, me, I will be giving you Reiki 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. All you have to do is let me know. metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com, and we will explore your future together.